We just want to give all of our listeners a heads up that there are some heavy trigger warnings in here.
There's quite a few animal deaths and violence to animals.
Yeah, and I would say that there's some intended rape, which is very brief.
And it's not graphic either. So if you're interested in watching this movie, just keep that in mind.
By no means let those things ruin the movie for you, but also be your own judge of character of whether or not those things will affect you. And otherwise, enjoy the episode. What's up, everybody? I'm Bryan.
I am Becca, and you are listening to Streaming with the Lights On,
where we talk every week about a horror movie that's streaming that got us screaming.
You know, that's not as cheesy as I thought it was going to come out to be.
Oh, well, good. I'm going to keep... Yeah, I mean, one of these days I'm going to stick to something. But I'm always going to say something at the beginning, so just going to have to deal with it.
You're just talking, I guess, is what you concluded there.
Yep.
All right, so what did you do this week?
So I got my coffee here, and I'm waking up. For those who don't know, I work in the movie business. For anyone who listens who does work in the movie business, you're probably not surprised at any point in time that I'm drinking coffee. It's not the morning, by the way. We're recording at 6 p.m., but that's my morning this week. Who knows what my morning will be next week? So,
did you watch anything fun this week?
Oh, did I? Yeah. So my partner Courtney, she's got a big thing for really bad Hallmark romance movies, and she's very aware that they're bad, and that's why she watches them. And at any point in the day, if I come home from work, the first thing she does is put on the TV and watch all of her movies. And, you know, I playfully make fun of her for that, but I discovered last night while working an office that Discovery Plus is, to me, what Hallmark is to her.
Really?
Because I've really just, had a bad itch for...
Is it Ghost Brothers?
Yeah, it's not even the good stuff. It's all of the bad ghost hunting shows, the alien shows, the Bigfoot shows. I got a weird itch this weekend. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to subscribe right now and I'm going to put it on at work.
It's only $5 a month, isn't it? It's not that bad.
No, I mean, well, it's $5 with ads and it's $7 without ads. I mean, it's a 7-day free week trial and Saturday night is my last night of the week to work. So I had a little bit of edible and I bought a pizza. I took it to work. It was just me in a huge building and I just blasted some really bad Bigfoot and Ancient Aliens shows for 5 hours. It was a good time.
Which I'm sure our audience will eventually learn that Bryan, for some reason, loves Bigfoot. Bigfoot content. I don't understand it, but
well, I can't help you if you don't understand it. But I know there's going to be a lot of listeners that are going to get it. Don't worry, because we're going to have quite a few Bigfoot movies on this podcast. So you got a lot to look forward to.
It is what it is. So, for me...
Yeah, what'd you do?
I have not told you this, because I was saving it for the podcast, but I finally completed all of the Marvel movies.
What?
All 743 of them.
Holy cannoli.
I watched Endgame Wednesday, I think. Wednesday or Thursday, I don't remember. And then I watched Far From Home today. So that is the most recent release. I'm obviously going to start WandaVision, or I started WandaVision, and then I'll do Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the TV series, and then I'll do Loki in June.
Oh my God.
But then I'll be all set for Black Widow to come out. I'm not a huge Marvel fan, but I guess I am a Marvel fan now.
Yeah.
So that's kind of weird.
I like those movies, but it's if I'm not doing anything on a weekend, it's sure, yeah, I'll go to the movie theater and watch this Avengers movie that came out. I'm kind of what's her name? She passed away recently. Wonderful actress, but she was the mom in Arrested Development.
Jessica Walter.
Yes. When it comes to Marvel, I'm kind of like Jessica Walter is in that scene where she gives Anyan, she calls him.
She gives him money to see a Star Wars.
She gives him money, says, go see a Star War. And
Yeah.
that's me with Avenger movies. Like, go see an Avenger. That's what I do.
That's fair.
Yeah, I enjoy the banter. I'm like, hey, that was pretty fun. I didn't know some of the stuff going on, but that's okay.
I now know all of the stuff that was in the movies. And I will say, though, I mean, I prefer a lot of I guess now they're more main characters, but like the core Avengers, I don't know. I didn't get fully invested in. Like, Iron Man is obviously humorous and, Thor's okay, but like when we got to know the side characters, that's when I got really involved. Like when Sam came, who's the Falcon, like I was like, oh my God, Sam is breathing life into these movies for me. So I'm so excited to watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier for him, and I love Wanda and Vision, so I'm very excited for WandaVision. So yeah,
Nice.
I'm almost all caught up on Marvel, and I'm shocked because that is a lot of hours that I have spent doing this.
I mean, I can't hate on you for that when I watch the shitty content I do on Discovery Plus. So to each their own.
I just told you, but I also completed up to I haven't done season 17, but everything that's on Netflix I have completed of Grey's Anatomy. So you will no longer have to hear it until it comes back on.
Buddy, that feels like a weight off my shoulders.
Yeah, I'll just have to use my Grey's Anatomy medical degree.
Well, hey, that could come in handy with some of these movies we watch.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we want to just dive in with what movie we talked about this week?
Yeah, we watched Spring this week, which came out 2014, 2015, depending on what website you go to. It was directed by Aaron Moorhead and Justin Benson, who, if they sound familiar to you, they also directed The Endless, the new Synchronic Resolution. Yeah, and that movie, Spring, is currently available to stream on Hulu, Shudder, and Tubi. And it stars Lou Taylor Pucci. Oh my God.
Pucci?
Thank you. This is going to be a great night with pronunciation for me. And then Nadia Hilker. That looks right.
Nicely done.
That was not nicely done. Do you want to take over what this little movie is about?
Yeah, so synopsis I got here is an aimless young man takes an impromptu trip to Italy and becomes involved with an alluring genetics student who harbors a transformative secret. And it's pretty much that simple. I mean, it's not simple when you watch it, but it's a pretty straightforward plot. I watched this movie in the midst of my funky ass schedule, working all night, sleeping all day. And I ended up watching it one of these mornings. I'd worked all night at work, went home, just stayed up, put it on TV and watched it. Yeah, it was a good time. I actually wanted to say I do not have as many notes this time as I thought I would, but I think that was just because I spent most of my time watching the movie. That's noteworthy.
This was not my first time watching it. My friend Liv, shout out to Lib. She had recommended it to me. I don't remember when, but I mean, I'll just preface and say that I fell in love with it the first time I watched it, and I bought it. So I own it as well.
Hey.
This is only actually my second time watching it.
Big shout out to Liv. I feel like she's given us good recommendations before, so we definitely
She gives me amazing recommendations. She's probably my best friend.
Shots fired.
Shots fired. Yeah, to the 3 other people I know. Well, you had ranked me before as your close friend, so I don't.
But I also preface that I don't have a best friend because
You're not 10 years old. I get it. That's fine.
No. Well, yeah. Let's just go there. Sure.
I wanted to just start off by saying that I think one of my favorite things about this film is the pacing of it. And I think when you start at the beginning, when Evan, the main character played by Lou Taylor, we watch his mom die with him in the room. His mom, dies of cancer. And then he proceeds to get into a fist fight at the bar that he works at and gets fired, which then leaves him to travel abroad, which is the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
But the pacing of this movie, it feels very fluid. And these two directors, I don't know if you have you seen any of their other work.
I'm Googling them now.
Bryan is prepared in advance for this
Hey,
podcast.
sometimes, just do some Googling while you record. I have not.
Okay.
Some of these I've heard of and wanted to see,
Okay.
but yeah, I definitely haven't seen anything else.
They're definitely movies that we'll cover at a later date. But I wanted to say that their pacing and that their style is very similar throughout. I've only ever seen The Endless, but they both had similar pacings and it was very fluid. And I want to use the word soft.
Yeah,
It's not like a soft movie,
right.
but it has a soft feel to it. And I'm not sure if that makes sense, but the pacing, just how the plot flows, and even when it picks up, it's still not like a harsh, which I guess could be due to the editing as well, but it's not harsh and it's not in your face and it just flows.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. If I can piggyback just to help maybe clarify some of those thoughts, the reason that all makes sense to me is because oftentimes when I'm thinking or talking about a movie's pacing, I sometimes throw around the phrase breathing room, and this movie's just full of breathing room, and not in a bad way. Kind of like with the character, both literally and figuratively, you're just kind of wandering through the story. I mean, it's literally what one note I put about the pacing. I said it's very interesting how the movie just wanders. I can't tell what is going to happen next. So that was nice.
Interesting. Yeah, I wanted to add, I don't know if this happens with a lot of people who watch a lot of movies, but there are some times where I don't know if it's the suspension of disbelief is broken or it's just my mind wandering when I watch a movie. But there are some times where I I'm like, okay, this is a set. This is a movie that's being shot. And I didn't have that once during this movie. And this was, my second time watching it. It felt like a movie, but it didn't feel like a movie at the same time. And I don't know if that makes sense. But I wasn't ever aware that these were actors and they were shooting scenes and there were multiple takes and all of that stuff that sometimes pops into my head when I'm watching a movie, which just adds, I think, to how well this movie was
Directed.
made and and
Yeah.
acted and written and all of those
Yeah.
all of
Yeah.
those important things.
No, I'm also on board with that. I would say the conversations, the banter that characters have throughout the movie feels very,
That's funny because I also had a note about the conversations as well.
whether it was between the love interests or just other characters, it just feels very conversational and natural, and it doesn't feel scripted. And who knows, maybe some of it's not. I genuinely don't know. Some movies aren't very scripted, but for this kind of movie, for what it was, it definitely helped it.
I agree that the discussions between all of the characters, I mean, apart from maybe the two British men that he traveled with, because they weren't meant to be that. They weren't meant to be, you know, conversationalists.
Uh-huh.
But the conversation specifically between Lou Taylor and Nadia, who Lou Taylor, meets Nadia in this small town, this small gorgeous town in Italy, and he kind of convinces her to go out with him. And most of the movie is them in this kind of relationship, falling for each other, having these really, on the surface, not deep conversations, but in actuality, pretty deep conversations. Their conversations specifically, I think that you could talk for hours about the philosophy in this movie, but I wanted to specifically mention that it gave me before sunset, before sunrise vibes.
Oh, yeah.
If anyone has seen those two movies, because I think at this movie's core it is a love story, and it's obviously definitely a horror movie, but it is a love story, and I think that it's rare that a horror movie has a healthy portrayal of love. In my
Huh.
opinion, there's a lot of horror movies with love. It's not, you know, It's not a unicorn, but I think in terms of it being healthy, this is one of the better portrayals of that.
Huh.
And I think that their yeah, I just wanted to mention that their conversations definitely gave before sunset and before sunset and before sunrise vibes. And it might have, obviously Europe, same same setting, two people walking around a gorgeous setting talking about deep things.
I mean, there's absolutely similarities. I think it's for people at least who have seen those movies. I think it definitely is like intentional, if not inspired. I wouldn't be surprised even if this movie, before it was made, was pitched like that. It's like Before Sunrise, but with a monster in it. I mean, I just scrolled through. Sometimes I just read the little one sentence blurbs from critics on Rotten Tomatoes. And one was sort of like Before Sunrise, but with tentacles.
Tentacles and
Great.
Scales and
yeah, there you go.
Hair and
yes, all those good things. No, I mean, it definitely pulls from that, not just in the setting or the topics of conversation, but also in the idea of like spontaneous chemistry or spontaneous romance, or taking leaps of faith, making the most of the present, of one time together. Definitely gets more into that later in the movie. And yeah, it's just a very interesting combination. I would probably even go as far as to say this felt more like more of a romance movie than a horror movie, even though I still acknowledge it's like a blend of both. But I'm really fascinated by what you said about the depiction of healthy romance in horror, because I never thought about that until you said something. But it's definitely true. It's just not something that on a character level is ever, even if it's explored in a horror movie, it's like brushed over because,
Right.
I think most filmmakers who get into horror, that's not really what they're focusing on. And I'm not saying that they have to, but in this case, it was refreshing. And also just, yeah, that's a really interesting note. And that could be like a whole other discussion for another time. But like,
Right.
the,
And I when I
yeah.
said healthy, I meant, when I think about horror movies that love is a big part of them, like Hellraiser, which one could make an argument that it's more obsession than love.
Right.
But that is obviously definitely not a healthy portrayal of
No.
anything. So love isn't something that's not common to horror films. I mean, then you have The Fly, where there's a love story at the core of that
That's
movie as
true.
well, which I
That's
haven't
true.
seen, but I know what it's about. It's one of those
Oh,
ones.
man.
It's a note movie that I haven't watched yet.
Oh no. I
It is.
think it's a great movie.
I'm sure it is, but the gore, it's in that time. It's in that sweet spot for me
Well,
where it. I just it's gonna make my stomach turn when I watch it. But so there is love in horror movies, but I don't think that there are many that I don't think there's another movie that shows love in this way. And I think that the love is a huge component. Pronunciation tonight is just off the charts.
hey, and I'm the one who's like got the funky sleep schedule.
But I think that the horror is very big in this movie and pretty dang original as well. So
Yeah, totally agree with that. For those who don't know but will know, Becca hates fake gore, and I'm kind of on board with her.
it's not like fake. It's because I can handle gore that came out in the past 30 years. It's between like the 70s
Right.
through to like the 90s.
Right. Where it's got like a texture to it.
Exactly.
It's really gross.
Like the faker it looks, the more it just churns my stomach.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what it is. It's just it started when I tried to watch Dead Alive, or I think Brain Dead is what it also goes by, Peter Jackson.
Yep.
And I had to stop 20 minutes through when the ear fell into the soup. So like I can't.
Yeah. No, it's awful, and I don't
know
know why.
What it is. I can watch truly graphic modern horror films without any stomach issues whatsoever. But you get into that, or like Society is the other big one. That I can't. Oh.
It's like the same feeling I get if I'm in a Halloween mask shop for too long. I just don't like it. I don't like the texture of all the rubber masks and all the. Yeah, I don't like it.
And I wanna clarify and say I do have a huge appreciation for that time period and the special effects
Oh,
and all of
absolutely.
the brilliant creative people who made that happen.
Yeah.
It just it garners a physical reaction in me for whatever reason. But anyways, uh,
Anyways, yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack about this movie, and probably more than we could manage in one episode.
right. And I want to mention, since this is a horror, um, that the horrific part of this movie, so we kind of explained, it's essentially a guy who feels really lost in life, just lost his mother, got himself into some legal issues over getting into a fight, so he kind of escapes to Europe to try and not really find himself, but find himself, escape, all of that. He meets a girl, starts to fall in love. The horrific part comes in is that this girl is, I think on Letterboxd they say they call her a primordial being. And throughout the course of the movie, there are scenes where she changes
Oh,
um,
so,
into. Oh, stop. Did you just tell me to stop?
oh no, I didn't say that.
Oh,
I said so, and I cut myself off. No,
oh.
stop, Becca, stop right now.
I was gonna say the first one she changes into kind of like a werewolf looking creature. There is one with tentacles. There is one with kind of scales, like a snake looking one.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna be great on like the lore of it and all of that because I think my brain kind of tuned that part out the second viewing of it. But she injects herself with, I believe it's like a stem cells
Yeah, it's something.
to like reverse the effects of these changes. And then every 20 years, you find out at the end of the movie that she has to get pregnant in order to give birth to herself, or if she falls in love with somebody, the chemicals that are released in our brain, the oxytocin, I think, forces her forces her to stay human. So she has to go through this change every 20 years, so she can continue to exist. So that's kind of where the horror element comes into it.
And you don't really find out a lot of this right away,
No,
which is
I,
fine.
I think that's
I
great. Yeah,
appreciate not knowing because, like,
you're kind of in Evan's position with a little more knowledge.
well, and it's just like it goes along with the what we talked about, the pacing and the natural pacing of the story. And it feels like you're just kind of watching it unfold. Really helps here, and it's so off the wall, like the lore in this movie, that it definitely helps itself by not explaining too much. It does at some point, but we'll get into that. I actually did have like kind of a jump scare
Oh,
when she first is like freaky the first time we see
I
her,
believe it's the
and she's kind of
werewolf.
like well, no, she's more like a zombie-ish vampire thing.
Oh,
She's
okay.
just like this pale stick like pulsating thing, and she like wakes up from bed and it's like and she gasps. I'm like, oh shit, what is that? And then she's just like wandering through the streets and gets a cat and eats it. You don't see her eat it, but you find its headless body later. And I was like, okay, well, I knew there was going to be something weird in this movie. I guess it's her. And I refrained from calling her the monster of the movie because it's not quite a creature feature. Because a creature feature, that's more of a horror movie where like it's a mindless monster, and it's more like just about humans trying to survive against a big monster.
Right. I would agree. It would fit more into the werewolf genre, kind of like the beast within kind of thing over like a creature
Yeah.
feature. Because I agree with you. Creature feature is you're thinking of, like one of my favorites, Cloverfield. That's a creature feature, or Godzilla.
Or even just, yeah, I mean, yeah, anything where there's a monster, I would refrain from calling her that.
Right.
And I do like the way in which she is what she is in the context of the movie. It's not like she is a monster that is going out sucking blood. And I mean, there's plenty of that. There's plenty of killing people, but she's still very much human. And she says that when she explains what she is to Evan once he, later in the movie discovers what she is, which is a great scene. they cut out of that scene to a very appropriate jump cut where they're both sitting together and he's spaced out and doesn't know what to say. And the first thing he says is, "Are you a vampire, werewolf, zombie, ghost? What are you?" And she says, "I'm human."
Right.
And you definitely get that through the movie before that moment, because every time we see her in like a private, intimate setting where she's having to deal with like trying not to transform at her work or at home, it just feels like you're watching someone deal with needing medication for anything, you know?
Right.
That's kind of how they treat it. They don't glorify the gore or the monstrosity. They don't make a stereotype out of it. And you feel for her when she has to go through that transformation or she's having problems. It's just like anyone with a medical condition.
And I want to piggyback off that because I like the philosophical aspects of this movie is the whole science versus magic debate that is weaved throughout the movie, because she is a scientist and she is clearly somebody who believes in facts, evidence, and all that very, sorry, Dad, science-y kind of things.
Oh, we are not scientists, so.
Well, apologize. My dad is, so that's why I have to apologize. But it's funny, it's funny in not a humorous way, if that makes sense. How the clearly, possibly mythological person in this movie is so on the side of science, and it is Evan who brings up the whole magic thing, and she repeatedly tells him that essentially anything that is unknown or that appears to be magic is just science that hasn't been discovered yet.
Yes.
Which I think, having lived with a scientist for, a lot of my life, it's a very true thing for philosophy, but that's how scientists truly operate. Everything is science. It's just a matter of it having been discovered or researched or all of that stuff first,
or have a clarification to.
Right. And she makes a point at least once, it might be repeatedly, where everything that is happening to her can be explained by science. It just hasn't evolved to that point yet, which I think is it's a great argument on her sake, because she's been alive for 2,000 plus years. So she has literally seen the evolution of science, which obviously could feed into why she's so science-based. But I just love the science versus magic tug of war, not really tug of war, but debate in this movie, and the fact that the science is coming from a creature that some would consider, magic or mythological. I love that reversal on it. It's great.
We sometimes, when we talk about a horror movie, we will go through discussing it in terms of like moments in the movie or the plot. And because of the pacing of this movie and how it wanders so much, and because there's just so much to unpack and talk about, I find us talking about the bigger picture things and the ideas and questions that the movie poses, rather than like, oh, it was so cool at this one part in the movie where the monster does this. I mean, this is definitely a thinking movie for horror lovers.
Yeah, it would probably fall into that dreaded I almost said outhouse, art house label that a lot of people like to.
I would refrain from saying anything like artsy fartsy, because that sometimes leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And I definitely think there are some experimental artsy horror movies out there. I would not say this is one of them, just because I feel like this movie could be very easy for the horror lovers and a lot of movie lovers to digest and get what's going on, even with all the lore and the things that could bog down the movie. There's just a lot to just naturally sit back and relax and watch and get a lot out of it. I did want to say, I know we've kind of talked about the characters, but I did find myself enjoying the main characters, which is another thing that could be hard to do in a horror movie, because so many of the characters get killed off anyway. So,
I mean, I would say it's harder in slasher movies, but I think it's a lot easier to become attached in the other.
You're right.
Subgenres, yeah. But any type of movie where there's going to be a high death count, absolutely agree with you.
But in particular, I did enjoy the characters in this movie. I enjoyed the building relationship between Evan and Louise. I really liked how natural it felt. Again, I liked their chemistry. I liked their conversations. And just as an audience member, I put a note that I fell in love with Louise just because both of them, but she feels very natural, like someone you could actually be having these conversations with. I like that neither of them feels like a stereotype. I like some of the moments they share where she takes him out to the boat and shows him these caves. And he says, we're taking on water. And she says, quit shit talking my boat. It's just little moments. I'm like, I love these two. I love Louise. I could fall in love with her. And even if she is a monster. And that's a big plus because it's really hard to write good romance. At least I imagine so. And maybe I say that because my partner watches so many bad Hallmark movies and we both know how bad it is. And we find ourselves laughing at how bad it is. But even the good ones, even like good rom-coms are chock full of stereotypical one-liners, cheesy moments. And this doesn't really have a lot of cheese, but it's still very warm and heartfelt and genuine. And Becca and I have our own tests about a movie keeping our attention. Mine is, can it make me put my phone down? I know there's a R&B song out there, a hip hop song, where they say, I can make you put your phone down. And I don't remember what song it is, but this movie made me put my phone down because I just watched it. And I was like, yeah, I'm into this movie. I dig this movie. So yeah, really enjoyed the chemistry there. I also thought that even just the side characters had good moments. I thought there was like a lot of good one-liners that made me chuckle when he's out with those two guys early in the movie and they get up one morning. It's a very short scene, but one of them discovers that they don't have Wi-Fi because they use the Wi-Fi code to roll a joint. He says, I fucking blazed the Wi-Fi code. I thought that was good. And I also liked when they're in the church and they leave the church and there's an elderly couple in there and the woman just says, a zombie was shooting heroin.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. So yeah, I really liked a lot of lines in the movie too.
Oh, and I wanted to mention, you shouldn't really have to worry about glare in this movie.
Oh yeah.
My whole beware the glare situation. I mean, there are some scenes that take place at night.
Mm-hmm.
Most of it, I would say a good majority of it takes place during the day. So the glare shouldn't be too terrible for normal people, unlike me, where it's a real problem. But for most everyone else, it should not be a problem for this movie.
So best kills.
I mean, I think there's one that we agree on. I think that we'll agree on.
There's really not a lot of kills anyway, and I would never probably put an animal as a best kill for me because I don't want animals to get hurt.
I mean, obviously the obnoxious American.
Obviously it plays out very much deserved because, that dude appears earlier in the movie a little bit and it's just a very drunk,
fully
ignorant,
stereotypical American abroad.
Yeah, so it was obviously very deserved kill there. And it is kind of funny that, again, even when they show you stuff that could be like a movie stereotype or like a trope, the movie does a good job both in story and character and cinematography to just kind of brush over things. So I thought it was pretty funny but effective when it's the next morning after she kills this guy and he's sprawled out on a rock on the beach and you clearly see that he ate up or like removed or took a big chomp out of his private bits. And it's just completely missing there. And the camera just kind of sees that, but then goes off into the water.
Right.
It was just funny.
I liked the whole fertility thing in this movie because, like I said, her whole able to stay alive for 2,000 years is hinted on her getting pregnant and giving birth to herself, essentially. I mean, it becomes 50% of her partner, and then she says in the movie she retains her memories. So it's essentially a different version of her. But I liked that the fertility is used kind of as a method of power and survival in Louise. but it doesn't relate to being a mother.
Right.
And I don't think that happens very often, if at all, in movies. Obviously, it's the plot is it's sci-fi and the plot is unique and all of that stuff.
It wasn't a very conservative way that we see
Right.
like that. No, I totally get that, and I'm very much felt the same way, and it is hard to explain.
Yeah, it took me a little bit to like write a note that made sense about it.
Well, because to my understanding as a dude, so obviously, you are much more capable of explaining this and feeling this than I am, but like there's a lot of independence. There's a lot of independence and empowerment, and there's a lot of stigma, obviously, especially in American culture, with what a woman should do and should be. And a lot of times that topic comes to a very touchy subject of like pro-choice versus pro-life argument and stuff like that. And kind of like you said, I mean, it's not like saying, oh, well, her empowerment should come from getting pregnant and having a baby, but she's making choices that don't necessarily have to do with giving up any of her identity to change or become a mother necessarily, although that does kind of come at the end. Yeah, so I think that it was just really interesting. Again, a lot to unpack there.
Right, that is a whole huge discussion, but
yeah, it's not one we're going to get into anymore now, but it's worth bringing up.
Right. Did you have anything you wanted to add before we talked about the ending?
I do want to talk specifically about the moment that he discovers what she is and how that all plays out. It felt, again, like most of the movie, very natural, where he, she breaks up with him essentially because I guess, she realizes that she's getting to a point where she's going to have to change. She doesn't want to be attached. And he finds himself back at her place and sees the door open, sees some blood, thinks that, oh, shit, did she get attacked? Did something happen? So he busts open, and it's just this big, tentacled, hairy, multi-limbed John Carpenter
She did not have
thing.
hair that time, but yes.
I thought she
no,
had...
there were... No, it was like...
I thought she had one, like, canine-ish limb down with her octopus tentacles. I don't know. I thought I saw something.
I don't remember, but
Who knows? Anyway, she is a very, like, over-the-top monstrosity-looking thing, and I genuinely didn't know how it might play out. It had its funny moments. It was very, like, strange to say, but heartfelt. Once he starts to process, even though he doesn't understand what he's looking at, it's her, and he can tell she needs a syringe, and he helps her despite what he's just seen. He doesn't run out screaming, which, I don't know, maybe any of us would do, but, like, he's in love with her, so he wants to help her. And so that was like, aw. It's like that's like an awe moment, despite like all these tentacles and things flying around. and it is very like, it keeps a very consistent tone of just being genuine and exploring romance while all this wild monstrosity is playing out. And again, I just love the way that they cut out of that to him still processing it. I will say it does lead into one complaint I'll make about the movie, and it's very minor.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. It's shocking. There's something to not like. It's hard for me to really even judge this, but like they had to explain what the sci-fi behind it. They just had to explain what it was in some detail. And anytime you do that, you're going to run into some exposition.
Just Bryan's nemesis, I am learning.
Well, it's just like, it's hard to do. And, they try to brush over it by just making it, again, very conversational, because he's basically like the audience wondering what the heck is she? And she tries explaining it to him while following him around the streets of Italy. And I found myself in that moment like, yeah, okay, this had to happen, and we have to explain to the audience what's going on. But I got over that after a while, because I'm like, well, it kind of plays into the plot to know what is going on with her. And it plays into their relationship and romance. Because after that, that's kind of like the whole thing the two of them have to think about as a couple. Because it then comes down to them making a life choice together, kind of like you would if you're going to buy a house with someone or get married to someone. you make a commitment that changes both people's lives, both figuratively and literally. By that point in the movie, they are trying to gauge, okay, if we're in love, how is this going to work? And if this does work, what happens to her chemically? Because they explained all that, it helps make the rest of their journey understandable, and it makes the ending nice when we don't need any dialogue to understand that she made a choice and she's in love.
See, I didn't mind the exposition. I know exposition is a very tricky thing with you, and like I agree, you can get I bring up probably the worst culprit of this. The pilot of Supernatural is the worst at exposition. So that's like the worst of it. But like I didn't have a problem with it because like you said, it was very conversational, and I think it would have been a lot weirder if he didn't question her about it, because they had built up their entire relationship, that they have these conversations, they talk things out. And if he hadn't questioned her, it would have
Yeah.
been extremely out of left field. So I know you get your annoyance with exposition, but I think in this case,
It had to happen.
not even
And
that
I
it had
think
to
they
happen,
did.
it fit in with the plot. Yeah.
That's why I say it's a mild complaint, because like they did the best that they could with it. And I think they did a fine job.
And I think that that's a big difference, that bring up Supernatural again, because they had an excellent quote where the two actors hated that scene because they're explaining their lives to each other. Like they already know everything that happened to them. And I think that's the
Right.
difference, is like in this movie, it's more plot than it is for the audience. Like obviously the audience loves that explanation, but it was more for the
The
plot.
characters needed to, yes. I especially liked, and I quoted it calling it the almost sex scene. It's before he ever goes to Italy, and Evan calls up who is essentially a friend of his, friend with benefits, we can guess, to have sex, and they don't really. And they've both been drinking, and the whole scene just plays out like something I know a lot of us, maybe even just myself, have felt before in terms of like chemistry with someone. It's not like a movie,
Right.
where they call each other up and they bang and it's great or it's bad.
It was a very realistic scene.
She's just like, I'm too sober for this now. And I'm like, man, I feel like so many people have said that.
She openly says that the only reason that she came over is because his mom died.
And then it's not like she just gets up and leaves, like she almost does, but then she stays, and then he passes out, and then she just goes, like, falls asleep with him. I feel like that's so many
Right.
realistic moments for people,
Right.
whether they're in a relationship or not. So I was just like, oh, so that's this kind of movie. Okay, I'm down with this.
I did want to talk about the ending real quick, because it's just a real quick note.
Oh, sure. Let's do
For
that.
some reason, I remembered the ending wrong. I don't know why, but I thought that she
Huh.
changed into the giant monster at the end.
Oh, wow.
I don't know why that is. I completely remembered it wrong.
Weird.
Completely. I don't know. I don't know why.
You had the Mandela effect.
It's just too many movies. I have yet to fully understand what that means, and don't tell me, because there's a movie that I'm gonna watch called that. And
Okay.
anyways,
Do we want to give our final thoughts?
yeah. I will go first, I guess.
Sure.
So, like I mentioned at the beginning, I really loved this movie. I love the pacing of it. I love the philosophy in it. I love the characters. I love the horror aspects. Yeah, I really like this movie. In terms of like rewatchability, it's not one that I put on whenever I do own it. So if I do get in the mood to watch it, and it's definitely one that I could put on like an October rotation. But I enjoy it every time I watch it. And yes, the rewatchability is there. It's just not.
You gotta be in the mood for
Right.
it.
It's one that you have to be in the mood for. Not that there's a really specific mood, because it's not going to mess you up emotionally.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I gave it a pretty high rating, because like I said, I own it. I've seen it before. I really love it. I really love these two directors. I really want to watch Resolution and Synchronic. So, oh, and they are directing. It's not a Marvel movie, it's a Marvel TV series. But yeah, so overall, really enjoyed it. Will definitely watch it again. Something I own. So I gave it a 4.5 out of 5.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't know what to expect going into this, and I didn't know what to expect while watching it. I really enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed how the movie played out. One thing that I didn't mention, but I've been thinking about on and off, I even enjoyed all the side plot about him being an immigrant farmer for a short bit and, getting to know this old Italian guy who kind of talks English a bit. Just everything that was in the movie felt like it served a purpose. Nothing felt like it was shoehorned in terms of characters or plot or anything like that. I already liked the Richard Linklater's movies, the Before trilogy of like Sunrise, Sunset, Midnight. I like all those movies. It inspired me in terms of my own short movies when I was in college. So definitely had an impact on me. Very refreshing to see it done in a horror setting. And yeah, I mean, I've only just had good things to say about this movie, which I know for some of our listeners might be boring when we don't really fight or have disagreements.
Don't worry. It'll come back. It'll come back.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. But in terms of this movie, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. Really enjoyed it. The rewatchability is there if this is your kind of movie. I mean, I would even say that I could watch this with Courtney, and she doesn't watch horror. But I think this is definitely a movie that anyone can enjoy. I think couples can enjoy it.
Also single people.
And single people. I said people in general first.
Just joking.
Yeah, there's just a lot to unpack, but a lot to enjoy here. And despite me saying that it feels more romance than horror, it's still a good horror movie. I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5.
Wow, that's the easiest average we've had to do.
I know, right?
And I will say that that is our highest rated movie yet. It is our third movie that we've rated above 4, or 4 and above.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of backlogged episodes that I'm sure we'll get to posting at some point. I know this is episode 2 for us, but yes, we've enjoyed quite a few horror movies together. But yeah, gonna put this up pretty high.
And I wanted to say that if you liked the actor who played Evan, Lou Taylor Pucci, can you say it?
Yes, you got it. Lou Taylor Pucci.
Thank you. Definitely check out Ava's Possessions.
Oh.
Which I've showed you, so don't say, ooh, like you haven't seen it, because I know I made you watch that.
Oh, yeah, you did.
I know we watched it together, because it's one of, like, my modern favorites. But definitely he has a more minor role in that movie. And we'll definitely cover it at some point, because it's one of my favorites. But
he's also in the remake of Evil Dead.
He is.
We've both seen.
That is correct. He is kind of quietly all over the place, and you gotta love him for that, because you have to love somebody who has a decent body of work that he's been in, but he's not.
I thought you were gonna say he has a decent body.
Well, you know,
I'm like, okay, well,
he does.
Right. I mean,
he does. He's very attractive. Let's try not to go all Jensen Ackles on you. Yeah, so definitely check out. I would suggest checking out the other work by the two directors, and then if you like Lou Taylor, definitely check out Ava's Possessions.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
Oh, and our next movie that we're going to watch, that I believe both of us have seen. So I don't know if we've done one that we've both seen before. I don't think we haven't. This will be first. Oh my goodness.
Whoa.
And we will be watching The Taking of Deborah Logan, which is currently available on Tubi, which is a free streaming service. It's free with ads, but it's still free, and we love Tubi in both of our households.
Yes, we do.
And I would like to say that my dad thinks that he introduced me to it last week, so that's great as well. Yeah. Oh, and we did Let's Scare Julie on our first episode, and my parents watched it.
Yes.
So I just wanted to add in, they're not horror fans. My dad likes vampire. That's as far as he gets into horror. But my mom falls into the Courtney category of Hallmark everything. This Is Us, HGTV, Nothing horrific. But they watched Let's Scare Julie, and my mom's response was just with a bunch of ellipses. And then my dad didn't believe that the ending was the ending.
I believe you told me he said he wasn't sure if it really happened.
Right. He wasn't sure it really happened. He was very focused on the blood on the uncle's shirt for some reason.
Hey, I
That
was
was one of the
too.
things that he brought up. And then he thought that the message of not pranking was heavy-handed, and uh but yeah, I just thought that would be funny to get my parents out there. I don't know if they'll watch Spring. I'll tell them about it, but
I feel like they could stomach it, and I mean, for what it's worth, I think it's a much better movie, and it's worth watching
yeah,
for anyone.
we'll see. We'll
But
see.
well, still, fire feedback from Becca's parents on point. We love to hear it. We definitely need to. I feel like we could totally have a skit there. Did Becca's dad think it happened or not?
Right.
That could just be we need that hot take on like every movie we see.
Right. I would love to find out what he thought of Spring's ending.
Yeah, did it happen or not? Who knows?
I could just hear him commenting on the science the whole time, though.
Let's go. I want to hear that.
Oh, because he just gives this look, like when he thinks that the science is bullshit.
Oh, I mean, it's 100% likely bullshit. I mean, I found myself like, sure, we can say this is science, but I'm pretty sure none of this works. But I'm on board.
Well, please let us know what you thought of Spring.
Yes, we want to
And
hear everyone's
if you
thoughts.
have any movie recommendations for us, and like any TV show recommendations, I'm a huge horror TV fan, and I don't think that things outside of American Horror Story are discussed as often as they should be, because I think that there's a lot of good horror TV content out there.
Yep.
So definitely let us know what you're watching. We like TV and movies. And you can do that on our social media, which is SWTLO Podcast, and that's on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Letterbox, which is just SWTLO, and then our email, which is streamingwiththelights on@gmail.com. Yeah. Oh, and rate and review us if you would like. If you know, liked us. Or I guess if you didn't like us, but just please maybe if you liked us. Sweet. Well, thank you so much, guys, for listening, and
We'll be streaming with you later.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, you did.